going on? This is BO4, and today we're going to talk about the best guns in Blackout. The best gun, in my opinion, is the Paladin, as you can probably guess from these intro clips here. And the Paladin is a high damage bolt-action sniper rifle. It can do 200 damage to the head, so it can down people or in solo even kill people with one headshot, even if they've got level 3 armor. It is my favorite sniper rifle and my favorite gun in the game. I would call it an S tier weapon just because of the high damage, as long as you're accurate with it. If you're not accurate, if you're missing a lot of shots, then it's not very good, and you should stick with one of the other S tier weapons. The other S tier weapons, there are 3 of them. I've got one for each of the major categories here. So the S tier tactical rifle is of course the ABR 223. And the other S tier long range weapon would be the KN57 in my opinion. That's just because it's got high damage, pretty good recoil control. Even if the damage at range isn't that good, it feels to me like the KN has just really good single shot accuracy. So as long as you're on target, that KN just drops people. Absolutely. As you can see here, I've got a suppressor. I'm fighting these guys at the diner. And you're gonna watch me take out their whole squad with some help here from my friends, of course. And we're just gonna take them out with this KN. And the other S tier weapon, as far as I'm concerned, is the Spitfire. And the Spitfire gets the nod from me just because it's full auto SMG and it does an extremely high amount of damage as long as you're on target. And if you've got any of those 4 weapons, I would say you've got one of the best guns in the game. So again, my S tier list is the Paladin, the ABR, the KN57, and the Spitfire. All very good, very, very powerful weapons. Really good at what they do. Moving on to the next tier of weapons, that would be the A tier of weapons. To me, they're not quite as good as the S tier weapons, but they're still really, really good, and if you can pick these up, then you're still in really good shape for the game. So that would be for the sniper rifles, that would be the Outlaw for me. And I prefer the Outlaw over the Koshka and the SDM just because it's a nice mix. You can fire relatively fast, the damage is pretty good. It's not nearly as high damage as the Paladin, but at the same time you can get that follow-up shot on quicker. So if you're a little less accurate with sniper rifles, I would try the Outlaw first just to try to get used to sniping a little bit, and then work your way up to the Paladin when you're ready to really commit to getting those headshots. For the assault rifles, I think the SWAT is a very good assault rifle. That's the newer assault rifle in the game. It shoots 5.56 ammo, so apart from the ABR, I would call it the best 5.56 gun. It's pretty good recoil, pretty good damage, just pretty good all-around weapon. Nothing really is exceptionally good or exceptionally bad about that weapon. It's a very strong competitor. It's good up close, it's good far away. The submachine guns, and I've got 2 of them on the A tier list, and you could argue either of these could be S tier submachine guns, but I picked one gun from the submachine gun category for the S tier, and that to me it's still the Spitfire. But the Damon 3-round burst and the SOG 9mm, both very strong weapons, and if you have either of those as your submachine gun primary weapon, those are great weapons. You can see in this game I'm using the Spitfire and I'm going to get lots of kills. Look at this, melt that guy with the Spitfire. Even suppressed, the Spitfire just does tons and tons of damage. But there's nothing wrong with the Damon or the SOG. Moving on down the list to the B tier weapons, and I'm not going to spend as much time talking about these just because I don't like the weapons as much. For the sniper rifles, I would put the Koshka or the Koshka, depending on how you want to pronounce it, as the B tier sniper rifle, just because it's got kind of all the weaknesses of being slower firing like the Paladin, but with none of the upsides. So you don't have the really high damage output of the Paladin. It does shoot faster than the Paladin, but to me, I'd rather have the Paladin or the Outlaw over the Koshka any day. And I've got most of the rest of the assault rifles in this B tier category. They're all very strong in Blackout. and there's not really a bad assault rifle. But I put the Vapor, the ICR, the Maddox, and the Rampart all in this B tier category. Yeah, they're all workable weapons, but I think that there are better alternatives than those for most situations. Moving on to the submachine guns, we've got the MX9 and the Cordite, and the same thing with those assault rifles I just mentioned. The MX9 and the Cordite are not bad weapons by any means, they're just outclassed by the Daemon, the SOG, and of course the Spitfire. Now, the exception to that might be if you found yourself against multiple enemies and you happen to have a Cordite with extended mags, you might be able to take it down multiple targets better just because you have so many more rounds of ammunition. But that's a very situational thing, and let's face it, if you're against 3 or 4 people by yourself, you're probably not going to make it anyway. So moving on to the C tier of weapons, these are the weapons that, to me, are below average, and they could use a little bit of a buff in one way or another. The only assault rifle, well, it's not even an assault rifle, the other tactical rifle, the Swordfish, or one of the other ones, is on this list. The Swordfish is just too inaccurate for long distances. So at the beginning of the game, you can pick up a Swordfish and get a couple kills with it, and that's fine. But toward late game, I don't want to be stuck with a Swordfish. It's just not accurate enough. Most of the zombie weapons are also in this category for me too. We've got the ray gun, the war machine, the Galil, the MP40, and the Zweihander. And those weapons, you just can't put attachments on them, is the main downside. And I listed the war machine as a zombie weapon, and technically it's not a zombie weapon, it's a supply drop weapon, but it's got the same problems as the ray gun, and you just can't reload it. So that's why I would call those below average. I've also got the Helion Salvo in this list, and the reason that I've got the Helion Salvo in this list is just because it's very situation dependent, and I would not recommend taking that to late game. I also have the Hades in this list, and the Hades might surprise some of you, but only those of you who haven't tried to use it. I mean, the gun is just awful, let's face it. It recoils way too much, just way too much recoil, and so that's why it's in the below average list. But if you can hit shots with it, it does a decent amount of damage, so it's not awful. Look at this guy grapple here. He's gonna, well, you'll see what happens to him if you keep watching. Kind of rounding out the below average category, we've got next up the D tier, and these are weapons that are well below average in my opinion. And I've got the SDM on here, and this is the post-nerf SDM. Here, hold this for me, will you? That post-nerf SDM, thanks buddy, I appreciate that. Shorty numb one? He's numb now. So the SDM is just, it's got too much recoil, and that's the same problem the Auger has, in my opinion. They recoil too much to be useful in most situations, which is a shame because they used to be really, really just excellent top-tier weapons. In the well below average category, I've got the last SMG, the GKS, and that's just because at long ranges it's outclassed by the assault rifles, at close ranges it's outclassed by the other SMGs, so why pick it up unless you really, really are desperate. I've got both shotguns in this category as well, and shotguns are just not very versatile. Shotguns, of course, are only good at close ranges, and so they weren't going to be very high up on the list. And if that MOG, though, if that would be a one burst, a one pump kill, that would probably have made it up to my B tier, but as it stands, it's on the D tier. I've also got the Titan on the D tier, and it's, to me, the Titan is just a horrible, horrible weapon. It's very inconsistent. It doesn't do enough damage, it shoots too slow, and it kicks too much. And it takes a long time to reload. So yeah, you can put a lot of bullets downstream, that's about all you can do. So if you want something for suppressive fire and you're not planning on getting any kills, the Titan's great. So I don't use the Titan. The Strife is also in this category, really just because it's a pistol. You can certainly kill people with the Strife, but it's a pistol, so it's in the D tier. The E tier, these are weapons that they're the worst of the worst, and there are only 4 in this category. We've got the RK7, it's terrible just because it needs to be reloaded so much. It only holds 15 rounds. If you have an extended mag on it, it's not as bad. It's more like a D tier weapon at that point, almost like a Strife. The Mozu is just awful. If you happen to find a Mozu operator and you're feeling lucky, yeah, you might get a couple kills, but more often than not, those attachments just do better on other guns. The VKM is on this list as well. I don't know that I've ever gotten a kill with the VKM. It shoots 50 caliber ammo, which is not difficult to come by any means, but it's not as common as the other ammo in the game, and a 50 caliber LMG really should do more damage than the VKM does. That should be it should be like the Gorgon from Black Ops 3, where it's just 2 shots, not 3 or 4 or whatever it is. As I face off against this last guy here, you can see I dropped the suppressor from my weapon. I've been switching back and forth between suppressor and long barrel throughout the gameplay, so that's kind of a gameplay tip for you too. Is know your environment, know your surroundings. If you've got a suppressed weapon and there's only one person left or one team left, it might be a good idea to drop that suppressor just for the better range, or the better bullet travel time, I should say. Anyway, that takes us to the worst weapon in the game, and most of you probably have already guessed it already, the Essex Model 7. It's awful. Shoots slow, the damage is terrible, you can't put attachments on it. It's the only zombie weapon in this E tier or F tier, and it's just awful. Anyway, so that's the gameplay, that's the commentary. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. I'm out.